You're overwhelmed, your heart is racing, and you tell yourself to just stay calm. But the body ignores the command and locks up anyway. This frustration stems from a specific cultural model, the idea that conscious thoughts generate emotions, which then dictate how the physical body reacts to the world. In reality, information travels in the opposite direction. Your tissues and nervous system constantly send data upward to the brain, which then attempts to interpret that data into a coherent experience. Trying to override this biological sequence with a positive thought ignores the way the wiring is actually laid out. Within this architecture, your internal state determines your perception. We do not experience the world as it objectively is. Because the brain acts as a receiver, it is entirely dependent on the physical condition of the body's tissues to understand what is happening. A stress state acts as a distortion filter. Neutral information hits this rigid barrier and mutates into a threat signal before reaching the brain. But when that barrier becomes flexible, the exact same information passes through unaltered. The physical filter dictates what your mind is allowed to perceive in the first place. The advice to change your mindset assumes that thought leads to emotion, which then leads to a physical feeling. The biological order of operations moves from the bottom up. A physical state triggers a sensation, which the brain interprets, resulting in what we call an emotion. Emotion is the meaning the brain assigns to what the body's fascial network is already experiencing. Thoughts are the dashboard lights of the system. They reflect the internal environment. They don't create it. Trying to fix a thought without addressing the underlying tissue state is like trying to change the weather by moving the hands on a barometer. The body organizes itself into 3 primary modes. In the first, protection, the fascial network becomes dense and tight. In this state, breath becomes shallow, and the resulting thoughts become rigid and defensive. When the tissue is closed, the language typically follows with absolute terms like always or never. If the system's capacity is completely exceeded, it enters a second mode, collapse. This results in a loss of physical tone and generates flat, heavy, withdrawn thoughts. The third mode is readiness. When the system feels safe, the tissue becomes hydrated and responsive, allowing for thoughts that are flexible and curious. The system operates on a simple correlation: closed state, closed tissue; open state, open tissue. When the fascial network is physically locked in a state of protection, the brain remains tethered to a threat signal. This prioritizes survival over curiosity, making flexible or positive thinking a secondary biological priority. We often view our history of anxiety or behavioral rigidity as a personal failure. These patterns are better understood as adaptive survival mechanisms. When the body locks up under load, it is redistributing pressure to survive a perceived threat. It is functioning exactly as it was built to. Your body isn't resisting you, it is architecturally protecting you. Bullying the brain into a new mindset is rarely effective if the body still signals danger. To effect change, you have to address the physiological environment first, inviting the tissue to soften rather than forcing it to open. By reestablishing breath and rhythm, the architecture begins to reorganize. The fibers uncoil, shifting the system from protection back into readiness. When the physical state shifts, the mind no longer has to be forced. Its interpretation of reality naturally reorganizes. Focus on building a safe biological environment. Mental structure follows physical safety.